What's up, Warriors, and welcome to another episode of the Mental Health Movement Podcast, Voice for the Voiceless. I'm your host, Chris. For those of you in the United States, I know we're getting ready to celebrate the 4th of July, so please be smart, don't drink and drive, and just be safe. As many of you know, I lost my brother to a drunk driver, so please think about your choices before you get behind the wheel, and look out for one another. Don't let your friends drink and drive. With that being said, today's special guest is a friend of a guest that came on here a couple months ago, Manami. For many of you that may remember, she has the blue humming therapy. Um, I believe it's pronounced Ray, right? Just
Yes,
okay.
Ray. Yeah, like
Um,
R-A-Y, Raymond. Mm-hmm.
awesome.
Mm-hmm. Rachel. Mhm.
So Ray is a marriage and family therapist. She was based in California for about 14 years before returning to Japan in 2020. And she runs a part-time private practice, and she has also done some collaboration work with the Blue Humming Therapy. So please help me welcome Ray Yamada. Ray, how you doing today?
Hi everyone. Well, thank you for having me, Chris. Yeah, I'm
So great
excited
to
to be
finally
here.
meet you.
Yeah, same here. You too. Thank you for
Um,
having me.
so let's dive into your journey a little bit. What inspired you to become a therapist, and how has your personal background shaped your approach?
Yeah, so gosh, where where do I start?
Wherever you
So
want.
back in Japan, when I had a really difficult job. That was my first job and I didn't enjoy it at all. So that's when I realized that I was not on the right path and I started questioning myself, okay, what do I want to do? A lot of people go through that, those identity crisis. So that kind of led me to find, who I am or starting the journey of what I want to do and what I'm good at. And long story short, I found this, yeah, mental health work. And I always wanted to come back to the US. Well, I just visited here like long time ago before I moved to the US and I fell in love with the city. So I came back and, started my journey in the Bay. Yeah, that was like almost 20 years ago. Yeah. Hmm.
So when you first started getting into the process of, becoming a therapist and practicing in mental health, how supportive was your family? Because I know there is that stigma of mental health.
Yeah. So my family was actually supportive. Yeah, surprisingly, because my family is pretty much everybody's coming from education, and they're teachers and there are a lot of like yeah, medical professionals. So they were actually happy that I am starting my, finally a journey to obtain a license. Yeah, that's where they're coming from. But I don't think they understood what mental health was or what my work, what I wanted to become. So of course I had to educate that. Yeah. Then I didn't really understand what was getting myself into either. So,
Right.
yeah.
So when you first started, into therapy, when became an official therapist, um,
Mhm.
why do you feel there is that stigma in Japan? Because I know it's still kind of lingering there. It's not as heavy
Yeah,
as it was, of course, but I know there's still a lot of that. Keep it to yourself, and we don't talk about that conversation.
this is such a great question and it's still going on. Yeah, by the way. I think one of the biggest reasons is that we we are such a like collectivistic culture, meaning like we a group oriented culture where a lot of people don't want to hear our own feelings, not only feelings, but expressions, thoughts. We want, we are expected to, just follow what everybody wants. And therefore, we don't talk about our feelings. And there's Yeah, there's a big stigma around it. I think when people hear mental health, they just go automatically go to like psychiatric hospital. Okay, this person is crazy, schizophrenia, or you know what I mean? Like, but I think that that's the one of the biggest reasons. Yeah.
I find
Mm,
it very interesting that in Japan, it's kind of like they have a formula set on how everybody's supposed to grow up, and they
yeah.
don't really want you to, I guess, essentially step out of that line. And I don't want to say not think for yourself, but just more or less explore what else is out there instead of what's being put in front of you,
Yeah.
if that
Hmm.
makes sense, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
is it kind of like that?
It's kind of like that. A lot of kids and young people would feel like that. Then when they realize that in their late 20s, or I think a lot of people here too, right, realize that they are not on the right path, and that's when they really struggle and they have a mental health issues.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hmm.
And I always feel like so many people in at least the US are always so afraid of that judgment that you get from your peers. And in a culture like Japan's culture that doesn't really encourage speaking out to your feelings and what you're going through, I can only imagine that feeling of judgment. And did you ever have that fear in your mind when you were pursuing this journey into therapy?
Yes. Did I ever have a fear? Actually, not a lot. I don't think I quite understood, though, to be honest with
Right.
you, about this profession when I started studying psychology. But now I do because I get to talk to people in Japan and how strong that is, a strict stigma, and yeah, lack of awareness about mental health. Yeah.
So how does that dynamic how do you channel the dynamic between I'm assuming you have clients in the US too? I'm assuming, right?
Yes, I do have a clients in the US and in Japan.
So how do you channel the dynamics between Japanese culture and American culture?
Oh my gosh. It was an adjustment. Yeah. Yeah, for me. So when I returned 5 years ago, I was so hesitant to even start my practice, in Japan. I mean, start seeing clients in Japan. So I had to kind of like relearn what my cultural identity was and about like mental health culture and what clients want and how they express themselves. That was the hardest part that I needed to really like understand because I'm so, even though like my first language is Japanese, but I'm so like trained in the US, like so yeah, as a therapist in the US. So I didn't know how to approach. So that was a really good question. I had to relearn.
That's so you essentially had to retrain your brain on everything you already knew, but you had to
Right.
adjust it for
Yeah,
another culture.
exactly. I didn't know any psychology terms in Japanese. So, and I'm still adjusting like,
Wow,
okay, like they don't know how to express their feelings. So like I have to teach them how to express
that's
their
interesting.
own feelings. Yeah.
Now, when you have your sessions with your clients in Japan, is your format with your sessions exactly the same, or is it just kind of like you have to format it out differently?
Oh, differently.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. Japanese people are more like structured more.
right.
Hmm.
That makes sense.
Yeah. Hmm.
Okay.
And they want to know, yeah, like what kind of approaches that I want to utilize with them,
Mhm.
or they sometimes they have a lot of questions. Mhm.
Yeah, I always feel like, for example, with my therapy sessions, I have a structure in how I want my sessions to be too. Like I'll ask questions, or I'll leave an open-ended question and try to get feedback from my therapist. And it's like I think I would rather do that instead of just venting to somebody. You know what I mean? Because like
Mm,
I
mm.
remember when I first started going to therapy and people were telling me, "Oh, you're throwing your money away to vent to somebody when you could just go to a friend and
Oh
do that."
yeah, I
And
hear them a lot. Hmm.
and I remember my response to my friend, it's like, "Listen, like I have friends that I can trust that I would probably tell some of the things I tell my therapist, and keyword on some because I don't trust some of my friends with everything." Uh,
Mm,
but having that third party and having that voice that doesn't have an everyday impact on your choices, it's like, this is what I'm struggling with. How do I get past here? Instead of going to a friend like, yeah, I'm still struggling with this. And then we're like, because they're your friend, and it's they tell you kind of what you want to hear and not hold you
Yeah,
as accountable as a therapist would.
exactly. It's a huge difference, isn't
Yeah,
it?
definitely.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Um, when you first have your first sessions with your clients, um, how does how do you lay out the sessions? Is it just kind of like, we're gonna see how this first session goes and we're gonna create a plan, or how does your layout of therapy
Yeah.
go with your
Oh, on the
clients?
first session,
Yeah, right.
I do ask a lot of questions to gather assessment information,
Mhm.
you know. Yeah, and I listen. Yeah, that's what I do on my
Yeah.
first session.
And I think
Mm-hmm.
that's the most important part too, right? Is that listening part, because
Mm-hmm.
we're so used to a world and society that just listens to reply instead of listening to understand what somebody's struggling with. And I feel that's one of the most essential parts of therapy, right?
Yeah, and another thing is, I want them to feel safe. When you
Hmm.
don't feel safe, they don't feel comfortable
Yeah.
sharing, and that I'm a stranger. So, yeah, that's the part. So, yeah, I'll make sure to build a therapeutic, yeah,
Hmm.
relationship at
Is
first.
before we started recording, you had mentioned you had a pretty heavy session. In
Yeah.
sessions like that, do you ever have a pause period in those kind of sessions where you're like, hey, all right, this is really heavy. Let's just take a quick break and just deep breath kind of thing. Like, do you ever have that
Mm.
time period where you just stop the session briefly?
Oh, I wish I could do that. But no, unfortunately no, because the time is, their time. They're paying for the time. So
Right.
yeah, I don't
That's
think
fair.
I would. Hmm. Yeah.
Um,
But
as a
after the session, I
therapist,
will. Hmm.
how do you manage your own mental health and prevent burnout?
Oh gosh. Well, this been I'm doing better compared to like, when I first started, obviously. So what I do is, when I'm done with my notes, I think I'm pretty good at letting the information go, release from my body. So that's what we're doing and working for me. I think it's different for everybody.
Sure.
And of course, we do take care of ourselves, exercise and all those kind of basic stuff and good nutrition. But we have so much to do in terms of taking care of self and
Yeah.
prepare for each day.
So
Yeah.
what does self-care usually look like for you?
Oh, my self-care is just being in nature, and I don't have a long list. Not so much doing list, but being. Yeah.
I love that.
Mhm. Yeah.
I it's funny about the self-care question. I just feel like across the board, it's funny because like so many people will answer with like, I do this and I do this and do this.
Mm.
I love your response. Your response is just it's perfect because we're all so worried about doing so much and always being productive, even when we
Yeah,
call it
yeah,
self-care, right?
exactly.
And when we're in that period of, okay, I need to decompress and I need to take care of oneself, most of us growing up don't know what self-care looks like, right?
No, no.
And I think being with nature is one of the greatest versions of self-care because I follow your page religiously. I wait for your posts and I love everything
Oh,
you
thank
post
you,
because
even though it's Japanese.
um because I hit the translation and I'm not sure how accurate the translation is to everything that
Mm,
you post, but um I just love that you're always in nature. And I feel
yeah,
that so many people in this field would benefit from that, like whether it's professional or whether it's clients that are looking for therapy. For me,
exactly. Yeah.
sunsets are always a thing for me. It's
Oh,
yeah,
beautiful. Yeah.
it's always something that will bring me back to the ground and just
Mm-hmm.
piece everything
Mm-hmm.
around us, right?
Oh, that is so great. And you know what works for you.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, yeah, that's the thing. Hmm.
And I feel so many people are looking for the answer of what self-care is. And
Yeah. Hmm.
much like the conversation of therapy not being for everybody, my self-care isn't going to be your self-care and vice versa. And I think
Exactly.
that's really important for everybody to hear because we can
Hmm.
give you ideas. We can tell you that journaling and music and everything is great. That worked for me, but it might not work for you because some of us have too busy of brains to journal and don't like to listen to
Yeah.
music. You know what I mean? Um, so that's great. I love that answer.
Yeah, self-care could be anxiety producing for a lot of people.
Yeah.
So could be simple. Yeah.
Which kind of
Mhm.
brings me to this question for you. What role does yoga and breathing work play in your daily life outside of therapy?
Oh gosh. So I have anxiety. I suffer from like general anxiety, and yoga and breathing exercise in nature really help me to stay here and now. That's the only reason I do practice. I need my mind to just stay in the present time. Mm,
And I love that you being a therapist, you can openly say that you have anxiety because
mm,
I feel like when I'm looking at the spectrum of therapy and just, I see therapists or I have conversations with them, it's like I love talking about their profession and love hearing their journey, but like very rarely do I hear of like, yeah, I have anxiety or I have this that I'm struggling with. And it kind of reminds me of a conversation I had with, I believe she's a coach, a life coach, if I remember correctly. And one of the conversations we had was so many people, and this was more towards clients, forget that therapists are people too.
mhm,
And
mhm.
because you guys have to approach therapy from that professional level and obviously can't be personal, um, I always love when a therapist can express humanity within themselves. And yeah,
Yeah,
I can relate to
you're
what you're
just
going through.
like
You know what I
everything
mean?
else. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Um, how do you determine when to incorporate Eastern healing techniques versus traditional Western therapy in your session?
Oh, that's such a great question. So, how do I determine? So, mm, it really depends on who I'm working for, but I find a little bit challenging to utilize like Western philosophy into Japanese practice because our cultures are just so very opposite. Yeah. Mm.
Do you ever try, have you ever incorporated any of, the American style therapy
Yes.
into your
Yes.
Japanese style?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Really?
Some of
How
them really
successful do
work.
you feel that is?
Yeah, the thing is, this whole psychology and mental health things were imported from the Western culture to
Hmm.
Japan. So yeah, some of them are could really fit well in our culture. Yeah, but some of them are not really. So yeah, I have a good response from my clients.
I love
Yeah.
that. Um,
Mm.
so tell us a little bit about your collaboration with the blue humming therapy.
Oh, Manami.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, oh gosh. So when did we meet? I think it's been already 10 years since
Wow.
yeah, met. I was still in the Bay, yeah, practicing. And yeah, oh. Then how did we start? That's right. We met through this Japanese clinicians groups called Nichibei Care, and that's where we met, and we really hit it off. And at the time when I think I was pregnant and going through the difficult time, and Manami, yeah, hired me as a part-time therapist, and that's when yeah, started collaborating with her and she helped me build my part-time practice there. So yeah.
I love
Hmm.
that. Are you still
Hmm.
under her? You're still under her umbrella,
Oh,
the blue humming?
no, not anymore,
Okay.
but we do collaborate a lot in terms of like increasing awareness in Japan, mental health awareness in Japan, or she's invited to like my counselor class. She's always open to teach. Yeah, or give
She's
a
brilliant.
lecture.
I love talking to her too. And I was when you
She
sent me that
is.
email last night, I'm like, oh, I can't wait to ask about that because I think you both are brilliant.
Oh, thank you. But she's like one of a kind. She is special. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah,
yeah. She's very, very
she's
special.
definitely got a really big heart. And
Yeah.
I feel when I started following you, I got that same vibe off of you that I got off of her in terms of
Oh,
you care so much about not only your clientele, but getting that message of mental health out there, right?
yeah,
And
yeah, yeah.
I
Hmm.
feel like the culture that you guys are from and how much you guys have made progress in getting that message over there. It's still kind of disheartening to hear like how intense some of it is still over there. Like, really
Yeah.
don't talk about mental health, and the culture just is really against it. But I love how much progress you guys have made in that because I
Oh, thank
feel,
you.
like I said, you guys are the heart and soul of doing this. So grateful to have met
Oh,
you
thank
through
you.
her.
I feel the same vibe from you too.
Thank you.
Yeah, we all share a similar purpose, I think. Yeah.
And I feel like this it's not really even a secret recipe in what we do. It's just looking at each other the same. It's I always have the mentality of I don't look at a janitor any different than I look at a
Right.
CEO,
Hmm.
right? And doesn't
Hmm.
matter how much money you make or how much money you've put in a nonprofit, it's we're all in this together and we're all trying to spread that message one way or another. And I feel that's one of the most important parts of what we do. And like I said, whatever messages that you have put out that I have seen, I think that you drill that point in there every single time you post something. And I couldn't be more glad to be among people like yourself in Minami. Of
Thank you so
course.
much. Yeah, thank you.
Um,
I appreciate that.
so
Mm,
we kind of talked about it a little bit with your how your first sessions usually go. Active listening is very central to your practice.
yeah.
Um,
Hmm.
what strategies do you use to ensure your clients feel truly heard and understood?
Mm. Yeah, like I mentioned, providing a safe space is a key, yeah, for I think every therapist so that they can open up, especially for those who went through severe traumas like sexual abuse, or unless they feel very safe in the space, they wouldn't talk about their trauma. So, and what was your question again? Sorry, I think
Oh, you're fine. I was just
yeah.
saying, how do you ensure your clients feel
Yeah.
truly heard and understood?
Yeah, yeah. I think safe space and hmm, empathy,
That's a
reflective
big one.
listening. Yeah. And it's all about them, you know. Yeah, I don't take up space. I just mainly listen. Mhm.
So when you had to retrain, your philosophies, not really philosophies, but more just how you
Mhm.
approach therapy going back to Japan,
Yeah.
how essential was having that empathy for a completely different culture? Because, like you said,
Mm,
they look at it a lot differently than we look at it. So how did
mm,
that play a
mhm.
part?
Oh, did you say empathy part?
Mhm.
Hmm. I think the empathy part is almost has the same value in our culture too.
Right.
But I think holding the space, okay, where do I start this? So Japanese people look at us as a teacher almost. So they would come to counseling with a piece of paper and a pen so that they can learn something from me.
Mhm.
So I had to teach them, educate them what therapy is. This is for you. This is for you to express your thoughts and feelings. There's no right answer. I think that set the tone. And okay, then they are feeling safe to talk about themselves. Then empathy or reflecting, listening come kicking. So yeah, I have to take some steps to
That's
mm,
interesting that
mm,
you have to basically train them what therapy
train
is.
them.
Didn't
Yeah.
even think
Mhm.
about that. Um,
Right? Yeah. You
And
didn't
I
go
feel,
through that, right? Yeah.
is there a certain age group that you do therapy with? Like, do you have like a
Yeah.
cutoff or a start point?
Oh, I don't have any cutoff point, but usually my clients are between like a women,
Hmm.
mostly between 30, age of 30, and
Hmm.
50s-ish. Yeah. Hmm.
So, do you ever have you ever done any therapy with adolescents or teenagers?
I have, yes.
And how
Both
different
in
are
the
those
US
therapy
and
sessions?
yeah. The theme, the topics are
Hmm.
very different, right? Of course, because different life stage, people go through different things. Adolescents, they're suffering, like their identity. They have identity crash. They don't understand why they have to like study what they have to, they have to study the top subject that they don't enjoy or those kind of things.
Right.
Yeah.
And I know at least in the States, I know there's that consent of you have to let the parent know of like specific
Mhm.
concerning
Yeah.
things. Is that any different in Japan?
Same in Japan. Same
It's the
in Japan.
same there.
Under
Okay.
18,
Nice.
they need a
Okay.
parent's consent.
Um, what do you feel is the most effective techniques you've seen in helping clients rebuild their sense of self after trauma?
Technique. Mm, Finding a meaning or leaving this mindset of victimization.
Oh,
So, yeah. So, I don't have a specific technique to help each one of them get to the point. But I think that's the theme that I want to work on with people who have a trauma. Yeah.
so how do you get somebody to get out of that victim mindset? Because I feel, and I actually recently heard this of, you having to be careful when it comes to talking about your trauma because you make yourself sound like you're staying in that victim mind state. So how do you break that cycle
Mm.
for your
Oh,
clients?
many sessions. I
Yeah,
don't think one or two is enough.
right.
Yeah. Uh-huh. Um, yeah. Many sessions and it's their process.
Hmm.
I'm here to guide them. I don't take over their process. Yeah. And I think I I don't know if you heard of Victor Frankl. Victor Frankl. He wrote Man Searching for Meanings. And he was, yeah, he's was, what, is a survivor of, gosh, I can't come up with the word, English words, Auschwitz in
Oh,
Europe,
a Holocaust survivor.
Holocaust survivor.
Okay.
And he came up with this therapy style called logotherapy, which
Mhm.
focuses on like finding a meaning in each, life event. So I do use the techniques a lot. I would ask, what lesson did you learn from this experience? Or yeah, but of course I can't ask those questions where they're going through active trauma, symptoms.
Right.
But yeah. Mm.
So essentially, you have to talk them down while also maybe splashing in a little bit of accountability in there too to kind of
Mm.
get them out of that victim mindset.
Yeah.
And one thing I have noticed, and it's actually from personal experience. So just a little background. I grew up with a very abusive and narcissist.
Oh,
Um,
oh gosh.
and I won't put the full fault on her for what she is as a person because of who her parents are. Uh, but
Mm.
that being said, she lives life like a professional victim. Everybody
Mm.
is always
Mm.
against her, and
Yeah.
you can't bring up her past to hold her accountable for her actions. And a
Mm.
typical narcissistic trait. Um, and I've noticed that it kind of has bled down into my younger sister, where she thinks the world is against her and that the world owes her something. And as her older brother, it's just kind of like, living through what my mom put me through and listening to my sister talk about certain things. Um, I feel it's so hard to get people out of that victim mindset sometimes because I feel some people are so comfortable being miserable, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah. That's their identity. Yeah.
some
Hmm.
of those people don't want to help themselves because that's all they
Exactly.
know. Have you ever run into a client where, you've had multiple sessions with them and then I don't want to say you gave up because that's not the right phrase, but did they just give up on trying?
Yeah. Or they're not ready, so they would resist to the change. Yes, I have a client like
So
that.
how does that leave you feeling like after that happens? Like obviously it's your time as well, but you're helping somebody. So how does that, I guess, leave you feeling?
Leave me feeling frustrated.
Yeah.
Hmm. Here you
And
go
how do you,
again.
I
Yeah.
guess, decompress
Mm.
after feeling like
Yeah.
that?
Yeah, I mean, I just have to let it go, you
Hmm.
know.
Like not
Mm.
taking your work home, basically.
Right. Mm. They're not ready and they're not. So, mm.
How challenging was the pandemic for you with your therapy?
Oh, actually, my practice started to get really busy during pandemic
Yeah.
because everybody, like five former clients came back. They were all stressed out.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I personally, I was planning to return to Japan in 2020 March, and it was pushed to November. So I was going through a lot. Like personally, I wanted to go, I wanted to leave the US at that time. And yeah. Pandemic was difficult for everybody, huh? How was it
Right.
for you? Yeah.
Um, so in the pandemic, ironically enough, tomorrow will be 5 years that I lost somebody really close to me.
Was it your brother?
No, so my brother
Mhm.
passed away a couple days after my birthday. It'll be
Oh,
4 years now.
my gosh, I'm so
And
sorry.
thank
Mm.
you. Tomorrow will be the anniversary of a friend who passed away in the hospital. This is around the
Mm.
time when they wouldn't allow any of us to see our loved ones in
Oh, that's
hospitals.
right.
Um,
Mhm.
and she was due to get surgery on a mass in her stomach, and she passed away of liver failure. And
Oh, no.
it sucks. I wish every day that I could have at least said goodbye, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I guess the bright side of her passing is she doesn't have to suffer anymore, you know.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
which kind of leads me to a question um, for your practice and when it comes to stuff like grief. If
Mm.
a client's coming to you with, struggling with not being able to cope with grief or the loss of a loved one or whatever it is, what do those sessions look like? And, I know you said you would make that assessment of, what they're going through and everything, but
Mm.
what is your first step of getting through somebody that's going through grief?
Grief is one of the most difficult experiences that we go through as a human, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, where it's losing family member, friend, or going through breakups, any separations. So, what I do is very simple, just holding the space. Yeah, for my clients to express anything that they want. Yeah, there are stages of grief, and there's some people are at anger stage, some people are at just denial stage. Yeah, it's very so. Mm-hmm. Yeah,
How differently does the Japanese culture cope with grief versus, how
I
they
think
do in the
it's
States? Is
mm,
it about the same or
it's similar. I
yeah?
would say, yeah, a lot of feeling repression. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
What's funny is the only way I knew what grief was or how to deal with it came from a cartoon show that I saw back in 2010. Uh,
Yeah.
it's a show called Robot Chicken. It was on Adult Swim, and basically what it is, it's a claymation that are doing skits.
Mm.
And there was a skit of a giraffe that had fell into um, a a pit of quicksand. So the giraffe is stuck in the quicksand and basically coming to grips of uh, basically it's going to die in the quicksand. And it goes through every stage. It goes through the anger, it goes through the denial, and
Mm.
just to kind of add humor onto the skit, the giraffe hits the bottom of the quicksand pit with his long legs. So
Mm. Mm.
that was how I was taught grief, and
Really?
yeah,
Yeah.
and that still sticks with me to this day.
We
Couldn't
don't
tell
talk
you
about
what
it,
I
right?
I
Mm-hmm.
couldn't tell you what I learned in algebra. I couldn't tell you what I learned in history.
Mm.
Tell you the one
Mm-hmm.
lesson I learned in psychology, and that's it.
Exactly. Right. That's why we need to talk about these more.
Yes.
Yes. Mm-hmm. People
Um,
don't know what to do. Mm.
so here's an interesting question, and this one's just
Mm-hmm.
kind of be going to be off the cuff.
Yeah.
So if you want to answer it, no pressure.
Oh, that's okay.
So the topic of suicide is something that is
Mm.
extremely controversial, right? It's
Yeah, and high
yeah,
rate in Japan. Mm-hmm.
yeah, right. And this
Mm.
is exactly why I wanted to ask you this. Um, do you feel that suicide is selfish at all?
No, I don't think it's selfish at all. Mm. No. I mean, it's leave a lot of pain to
Yeah,
people
right.
behind. Yeah, left behind. But yeah.
And the reason I ask that is because there is that collective bit of people that do feel it is selfish because of what you just said, leaving the pain
Mm.
to other people, right?
Mm.
Um, for those that are going through a hard time, that are dealing with suicidal ideations or, just
Mm.
suicidal thoughts,
Mm.
what would be your message to those people struggling that just can't seem to
Mm.
find the light at the end of the tunnel?
Oh, the help is available. I hope they do seek help. You know, gosh, uh, a lot of time when people are suicidal, they wanted to escape from the pain, not so much about hurting, wanted to hurt themselves. Not really. They just don't want to deal with this body because as long as we have this body, we have to go through the pain. Yeah. But yeah, help is available. And usually when people commit suicide, that's not when they seek help, right? They have already made up their mind and then do it. So some people actually do feel better. Yeah. Uh, but I hope people do uh, see the sign of those individuals who are going through so much and connect them to the resources because not all the time they are in the position, right? Or they don't have the energy to do that. But oh, this is such a tough,
It
topic.
is.
Uh-huh.
So I had my first attempt when I was 14 years old.
You
Uh,
did. Oh,
this was one of those
mm,
times in my life where I was still coping with the fact that my parents were never getting together, dealing with the
mm,
difficulties of being a heavy set boy at the time, 14 years
mm,
old, and being
mm,
bullied for that, and just
um,
not really understanding who I was as a person.
mm,
And I felt invisible, right? And
mm,
you said
mm.
something that I really wanted to point out, and
Mm.
most people that are suicidal have already made up their minds, right?
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
one of the most important parts is noticing the signs.
Mm,
For the
mm,
people
mm.
who have seen or have experienced people that have taken their life, those signs are always there. Some of them
Yeah,
just aren't as obvious, right?
exactly. Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't until about 2 months ago that I had, my reason why. Stepping back into the shoes of 14-year-old Chris and understanding why. And my reason of why, I wanted to be seen and I wanted to be heard because I
Mm,
wasn't getting that
mm,
from my parents and
mm,
getting
mm,
that
mm,
from people that I called friends at the time.
mm, mm,
And,
mm,
thinking about it now, obviously not wanting to be seen in that light. I don't want to be seen hurting myself, but that was my way of, I guess, crying for help. Like, listen, like, I don't feel seen. And the worst part of that, of my attempt, obviously, besides the attempt itself, was I was in a period of feeling numb until I was 27 after my second attempt.
Mm.
And the
Oh.
significance of my second attempt was halted by my brother, who's no longer here.
Mm. Mm.
Called me on
Mm.
the phone, and I had written a suicide note on Facebook that I deleted within 5 minutes.
Mm.
Didn't want that attention.
Mm.
I didn't want people to see that I was
Mm.
in that mind state. And
Mm. Mm.
he
Mm.
called me. He's like, "Hey, man, I just want to let you know that I saw what you posted, and I saw that you deleted it, and I just want to let you know that I love and I care about you, and don't want
Mm.
anything to happen to you."
Mm. Mm.
That's all I ever wanted to hear was that
Yeah.
they cared,
Yeah.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Mm-hmm.
like you had said that most people have already made up their mind, and I was there.
Mm-hmm.
I was there.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And it
Mm-hmm.
took one phone call to change my life forever,
Mm.
right? And
Yes.
while this is such a heavy topic, I feel that
Mm-hmm.
it's something
Mm-hmm.
that definitely needs to be acknowledged, especially you had mentioned when I first asked you of the high suicide rate in Japan.
Yeah, but it's good that we are talking about this because life is hard, and I believe that most of us do go through this period of yeah, time where we want to just disappear.
Yeah.
Yeah, right? Yeah.
And sometimes we'll catch ourselves. Like I told my brother this, and I'll share it with you to be vulnerable, but I told him, I said I caught myself saying out loud that it could be so easy.
Mm,
And
mm, mm,
he's like, come on, man. He's like, you don't, there's so many people that care about you and love you. I'm like, I don't think it was more, I don't think it was, I was feeling any type of way. I think it was just my inner subconscious just kind of acknowledging, like, yeah, you're struggling right now. And it could be just so easy to just call it quits. And I want to bounce off of your message to those who are feeling like this too, and just kind of express to our listeners that there is light at the end of this tunnel and that healing is so
yeah.
possible. It's all it takes is to admit that you're not okay. And it's
Mhm.
okay to not be okay.
Exactly. Yeah, I had the worst postpartum depression and I wanted to really disappear. hmm Yeah. So after that, I was like, okay, yeah, everybody is actually going through something. And oh, sorry, yeah, everybody does get suicidal
Yeah.
once in a lifetime, and that's
And
okay. Yeah,
when you were going through that depression, did you seek therapy for yourself as
I
well?
did. I
You
did.
did. Okay. And
Yeah.
did it help you at all?
It did help. I took
Good.
medication too. And that's one of the reasons that I went back home to seek support from my family. I was so fortunate that, everybody was there to support me. Yeah. So, yeah.
So I'm glad that you mentioned the medication thing too, because that's actually something I wanted to ask about as well.
Mm,
Um, how beneficial do you think medication is to mental
mm,
health, or is it just
yeah.
circumstantial?
I guess it's helped me, but I
Mm,
know some people are very reluctant to take medication, just
yeah.
the idea of it. But
Hmm.
I think it's beneficial to try it out, even just try it out for temporary or even yeah. And some of the medication do have a side effects, and that's the reason people do scare or just the stigma around it, I think.
Yeah.
But I would say that that's just one of the options to uh, make you feel better. So why not?
Right. I'm glad that you said option because I feel so many people when they hear medication, it's just like, oh well, I'm not gonna take that medication because of what you just said, the side effects of them. And I think also a lot of people don't realize that the medication for mental health, you also have to put in work to better yourself, to rewire your brain. That medicine is not
Yeah.
going to do 100% of that effort.
hmm Exactly. I think it's interesting how we our perceptions are, wired to whatever that is, like psych medication, or because we gladly take medication for cold or any other yeah,
Mhm.
medical symptoms. But yeah.
I
Mm.
had a pretty bad experience with a therapist, not the one I'm with now, but the one actually
Mm.
before her. Um, I was with her 2 sessions and she didn't write down anything. She wasn't listening to a word I said the entire time. Only
Oh
words that came out of her
no.
mouth was, "Would you take medication?" Nothing else. Didn't ask me about anything else.
Oh,
And I looked at her, I'm like, I don't I don't want to take medication. I just want somebody to listen and, give me some guidance.
yes.
And she ignored everything I said after I
Oh
said I don't want to
no.
take medication.
Oh, I'm sorry you had that
Oh,
therapist.
it's okay. It's okay. Um, and she's like, "Well, you would take medication for your blood pressure, wouldn't you? Why wouldn't you take this?" And it kind of
Mm,
sounded a little manipulative. It was like, "Yeah, this
mm.
is not a good fit." Um,
Right. Mm-hmm.
and then after I had my first anxiety attack on our
Oh.
second session, she cut me off
Mm,
mid-sentence and said, "That's all the time we have." And
mm,
she sent me to, or she said that she's all booked up and she can't take me anymore. And I'm
mm.
like, wow, that's professional. Um,
Wow.
and I'm really grateful that I came across the therapist I have now because I almost gave up on myself and didn't
Mm,
take care of myself.
mm,
Um,
mm, mm.
and ironically enough, you're aware of um, the organization NAMI, right?
Yes, yes. Mm-hmm.
So they had a rep come to our work, and uh, after they were done doing the presentation, talking about mental health and everything, I asked them like, "Hey, man, I wanted to ask you, but I, just kind of had that shame in my head of being a man and asking about therapy." So I asked them after everybody was leaving, and I said, "How do I go about getting a therapist that's right for me?" Because I had a really
Yeah.
bad experience.
Mm,
And
mm,
the advice he gave me changed my idea on therapy
mm.
forever. And he said, ask questions. Ask the therapist what kind of therapy they do, and you don't have to just
Yes,
settle with one therapist.
exactly.
And I
Yeah.
feel that so many people, I have a group of friends that have gone through several therapists, and it gets discouraging after a while.
I
Um,
understand.
Have you
Mm.
ever had clients that have come across you that says that, they had several therapists and
Yes.
they were unsure about therapy
Oh,
with you?
of course.
Yeah.
Especially not in Japan though. Yeah. But in the Bay Area, San Francisco Bay, therapy is so big. So
Hmm.
people do go to therapy. So one of my clients actually said, finding a therapist so like dating, finding the good match. Yeah. So she was like, okay, I've gone through like so many therapists and okay, here you are. And yeah, and I do honor and respect their process of finding a therapist because I would do the same thing.
Right.
Yeah, it's a investment of your money and time and energy. So why not? Hmm.
So you have to, start over that report session and just
Yeah.
kind of get to know them. And I'm sure they've had to go through that through many of them. So I guess,
Yeah.
do you like present like any kind of like options in front of them for your type of therapy that,
Yeah, they do ask questions.
yeah, good. Okay, cool.
Yeah. Yeah. It's amazing how like knowledgeable some clients are. So
Yeah.
what type of therapy you do, or they ask questions. Mm.
Good. Good. I'm glad to hear that. I'm really even more glad that you encourage it because I feel that there are some professionals or some therapists that are just kind of stuck in their ways of like how old school therapy was, or how does this make
Mm.
you feel? You know what I mean?
Right. It's so much more than that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm.
Um, has there been a moment in your career where a client's growth deeply impacted or changed your perspective?
Oh, yes. Mm-hmm. Oh, so many.
Yeah.
So many.
Did it
Yeah, I'm
change
about to
how you
cry.
approach other clients?
Yeah, it's interesting how my clients are kind of like a mirror in terms like bringing the message or teaching that I need to learn and at that moment. So yeah, so many like great sessions. Mm, they not only show progress, but like uh taught me so many life lessons, like about partnership or oh my gosh, I don't even know. So many. Yeah. Uh-huh.
Um, what advice do you have for therapists working with clients from marginalized communities?
Mm. Oh yeah. I mean, I'm just so like Japanese focused therapist right now. I only see like monolingual people, so I didn't expect that question and I have to really think about that. Okay. Uh, we have to train ourselves. Yeah, we have to meet. I don't even know. I don't want to say meet where they are. Uh, we really have to be curious and ask questions and yeah, let them educate us, where you're coming from and where the struggles are because we have no idea what they're going through.
Right.
We coming from the background of privilege, like we went to school and then became a therapist, but the clients that we're facing, they have a completely different background or could be or a different mindset. Their survival might be in a survival mode all the time. So there's things that we don't understand, and we have to really like be humble and be open to learn. I
I
think
love
that's the
that.
message.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Being
Uh,
open to learn is a good one because I feel even if you do have that format, you're going to have that one client that just completely shakes everything up. And I'm like, oh, wow, yeah, all this stuff that you know doesn't apply to this person. So
oh
let's see,
no.
well, how I can
Yeah.
incorporate what you have with where they're at.
Yeah, exactly. Can I just share one thing? I had a
Yeah.
client who was like late all the time or would cancel last minute. And I would have like, frustrated. "Well, how come she's always late?" What? She was, she didn't own a car and she was on, she had two jobs. And of course, navigating her life was already challenging. And that was a lesson for me, like,
Hmm.
oh, yeah, like how
Interesting.
come I would react that way? Yeah.
So you essentially you're not only questioning yourself, like, is everything, am I doing things the right way? And does she
Hmm.
not want to come see me anymore? Or, I'm sure these
Right.
questions kind of cross your mind, right?
Yeah, those questions cross my mind, but the reality is just getting to the appointment was difficult for her.
Right.
Yeah,
And were those sessions always in person or were those virtual?
in person at
Yeah.
the time. Yeah.
Um, so I usually ask every guest this question. But before I ask that one, do you have any upcoming projects or any collaborations that you're looking forward to?
Oh, not at this time actually. Yeah, no new project that I'm working on. Well, next year though, my first book is going to be released in
Ooh,
Japanese.
okay.
Yeah, so that's the big project I guess I'm working on.
Very
Yeah.
exciting.
Mm,
And what do you have a title for the book yet?
not yet.
Okay. Okay.
And how
So
about
if
you? Like, do you have any? I'm sure there are a lot of things going on for you.
um so I will be recording with somebody in Denmark
Oh, wow.
In August. And
Mm-hmm.
then another gentleman I'll be recording in August as well. I don't have either person scheduled yet, but as soon as I get back from vacation, I'll be scheduling them. Um, Otherwise, just plugging along, just trying to look for new speaking opportunities and stuff.
Mm,
My goal by next year, and I just got to figure out how to do it, is I would love to go to a school and just kind of tell my story in a
yes.
appropriate manner
Mm-hmm.
and just kind of, coming from a place of, I was 14 once and I'm here today to tell you that it's okay to talk about your struggles and, stuff like that. But just got to figure out how to get from there to here, from here to there. So, yeah, just until then, plugging along and, sharing my story and giving a platform for you guys to share yours. Um,
Yeah, great. Hmm.
So that kind of brings me to this last question that I ask all my guests, and can't wait to hear your answer for it. If you could change one thing in the mental health community, what would it be?
Oh, gosh.
It always stumps everybody.
One thing.
One thing.
Mm. Oh, gosh, just one thing. Stigma.
Yeah.
Mm,
Yeah.
mm.
Clearing up the stigma of therapy.
Yes. And normalize what we go through is just a human being's experience, you know? Yeah.
Less judgment. Yeah.
Judgment.
I completely agree. I remember the whole first year of therapy, I didn't want to tell some of my closest friends that I was going
Mm.
because as a man telling people that I'm going through therapy, it's like I don't want to be perceived as weak. And, that was the first year of therapy, and my therapist drilling into my head, like, you're strong just for saying that you're not okay. Telling your story is the
Exactly.
strongest thing you can do, right? And it took a while for me to tell my friends, like, yeah, I've been going to therapy and it's been improving my life drastically. And, you know, my dad and I don't really talk about therapy because he doesn't believe in doctors and all that stuff. So it's
Mm.
a weird conversation with him. But yeah, I completely agree. Less judgment, a little more openness to the idea of therapy. And I just want to put this out there for my listeners because I think this message is important too. Therapy is not for everybody, right?
Right.
There are many different forms of
Mm-hmm. Hmm.
therapy when it's not actually called therapy. There is group settings that you can go to. There
Yeah.
is life coaching. There's so many
Life
different
coaching.
versions of
Hmm.
what everybody is doing. Um, Before we close out today's podcast with the quote of the day, where can our listeners find you on social media?
Oh, my social media is, I'm doing it in Japanese, so I don't know if they will enjoy it, but yeah, I'm mainly on my Instagram though. Yeah.
Perfect. I'll be sure
Yeah.
to put that in the link of the
Oh, thank
podcast.
you.
Um,
Hmm.
Before I read my quotes, do you have any closing words for our listeners?
Oh, I mean, I really enjoyed it so much. I hope everybody, enjoy listening to this. Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, so I have a quote. There was no author that I found on it. It just says Notepad, which is the page that I follow, and it reads, "Sometimes growth looks like choosing you, choosing to spend time with people who choose you, choosing to love yourself, choosing to be there for yourself, choosing to create space for the things and people you love in your life, choosing self-compassion, choosing the things that feel like safe to your nervous system, and choosing growth."
Yes, yes, I love that. That's a beautiful quote. Mm.
I'm a
Yes,
firm believer in self-love.
yes. You gotta choose
We're
yourself
not,
first.
yeah, we're not told enough to love ourselves.
Exactly.
We're not told enough to take care of ourselves. It's put those that mean a lot to you ahead of yourselves. That's called selfless. We're not taught self-love enough. It's
Exactly. Oh my gosh, in Japan too.
yeah.
Hmm.
It took me
Yes.
probably about 32 years to say the words I love you to myself with me
Mm.
behind it. Um,
I
I'm a
love
firm
that.
believer in affirmations. Telling yourself good things. We're so big on negative self-talk and self-destruction. What we need
Yes,
to do is love ourselves more and put ourselves and our needs before everybody else's sometimes. And that's
yeah,
okay. It's okay to be selfish sometimes.
of course. Set a boundary, everybody. Choose
Yeah,
yourself.
exactly.
Yeah. Mm.
But Ray, I just want to say thank you so very
Oh,
much for
thank
coming on
you
today.
so much for having me today,
Chris.
Chris. I
And
really enjoyed it. Mm.
yeah, me too. For all my listeners, thank you as always for your support. Be safe on your 4th of July. And
Mm.
until next time, be gentle with yourselves and much
Yeah.
love, guys.